His O-line in that game was not particularly good either, but there were throws to be made that he missed. The Rams game was a little different. He missed a few for sure, but that was a game in which his offensive line, and I know I mentioned this to you last week, that I thought that could well be a deciding factor in the game.
It was.
The Rams' four-man pass rush versus the Vikings O-line, which is not a very good pass-protecting O-line, was really the major factor in the game. And then what started to happen, which happens with a lot of quarterbacks, is the cumulative effect of pressure really got to Darnold, and he started to play very fast. He started to be really uncomfortable. Now, keep in mind, one of the things during the season that made him really good was that he stayed in the pocket. He waited. He made a lot of what we call late in the down throws, where there were people around him. So he had a lot of success doing that during the season. But over the course of the game against the Rams, just the effect of the pressure, he succumbed to it. And he just was a really uncomfortable player. Well, you and I both know the narrative. People are saying, hey, that's the real Sam Darnold. I don't get into that, Colin, as you know. I can only tell you what the tape shows. Now teams have to decide what he is, depending on who coaches him. We'll see about the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, they drafted a quarterback with the 11th pick in the draft. I don't know the owners. I don't know what they're going to do. My immediate response would be I'd probably be surprised if they signed him to a lot of money, because they'd probably say to Kevin O'Connell, hey, you're a really good coach. You draft a quarterback with the 11th pick. It's your job to make him a good quarterback.
Yep. All right.
Yeah. This is interesting. I mean, listen, I'm just happy that Greg Cosell kind of really highlighted that there was just so much pressure on him, and it was just like, kind of like, what do you want him to do in that moment? And the cumulative effect of all this pressure is what happens to essentially every quarterback out there. And so to hold Sam Darnold to this unique standard is kind of absurd. And not to mention also, if we want to say that other quarterbacks can handle that situation better, it's going to be Mahomes, Lamar, Josh, and like that's it. And so it's like, okay, so he's not on that level. So that means you can't win with him, and you're constantly trying to find the next quarterback who's going to be Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar. Like, good luck, good luck. And so I really do think that Sam deserves to be defended pretty firmly with all of this. I know Minnesota Vikings fans are very adamant now about moving on from Sam Darnold and getting JJ McCarthy, but in a kind of a weird way, this almost maybe benefits them, because now they don't have to give him as much money as they maybe would have had to have, and maybe you can now still run it back for another year, or heck, even doing again, it's so hard to know really like what type of structure that they would want to set up, but they could just give him a relatively cheap deal that still puts them in a great position. Whereas if he turns out to not be as good as they would want him to be, or JJ McCarthy really steps up, then they can move on from Sam and have JJ step in. I still think there is a tremendous amount of value to keeping Sam Darnold, because what he did during this season is not some easy thing to do. And just the automatic assumption that you're going to be able to have that with JJ in his first year playing, I just don't know how true that is. I just don't know how true that is. And to just automatically think that he can just do that, it's a tough leap to make. And it's not to say that JJ McCarthy won't be special. It's not to say that JJ McCarthy won't be great. It's just, what you have with Sam Darnold. You can have a tremendous amount of success, and I just don't know if you want to let that leave so simply, so quickly. And that's why I continue to be really fascinated to think about what will the Minnesota Vikings do in this situation, and what does Sam Darnold want? What would he be willing to take? And this is made up, but it's like, would he be willing to be so low as to be like, I'll stay with Minnesota because of everything that's happened? I'll sign a 2-year, $20 million contract, right? Like, I don't know. Or is he kind of like, no, I'm great, and you know what? If the Raiders want to give me a $100 million contract, I'm taking it, or whatever the situation may be. That's what I'm fascinated. And I think depending on what they do with Sam Darnold will potentially speak volumes into how much they believe in JJ McCarthy, actually. and what they're expecting from him and what he showed them. Because Kevin O'Connell was downplaying J.J. McCarthy from the jump, which was smart, which was wise, which is why I came out and said Sam Darnold will start the season. It feels like J.J. is going to sit for the full year, which I said was smart and which I said is what he should do. I didn't predict Sam Darnold would be as great as he was during the regular season. I thought they would have a lot of success and be contenders, but I was very firm to say it sounds to me that Kevin O'Connell is saying JJ is going to sit. And then even after he got hurt, I came out and said, listen, Sam was always the plan. Sam was always the plan. It's definitely a bummer that he got injured, but he was always the plan. And I still firmly believe that, even though, considering how the season unfolded. And so I just wonder, because they continue to not really be able to see him throughout this season in practices and all that. I don't know. It's a tricky situation. It's very different if he was just sitting on the bench. Like everyone says, oh, this could be a Jordan Love situation. The difference is that one, you had Aaron Rodgers, and two, Jordan Love was healthy. He was sitting on the bench, but he was healthy. He was in practice. He was able to put in the work. JJ was unable to do that this season. So yeah, I don't know. There's really no easy there's really no easy conclusion that can be drawn or easy decision to be made, which is why at this point, like I really am just kind of a wait and see, because I'm fascinated, because there's obviously multiple trajectories that this can take. And we know that the team was very, 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 very high on Sam Darnold. The players, the coaching staff, ownership, all of that. They loved him. And then these last two games happened, and did they fall in love with him, or do they defend him? Do they see this as a team failure or a Sam Darnold failure? That's the conclusion that you have to figure out. How do the Minnesota Vikings view those last couple of games and how the season ended? A Sam Darnold failure or a Minnesota Vikings failure? When you reach that conclusion, then you'll be able to figure out what they do with Sam and what they should do with Sam. I see Sam was unable to overcome it. I see that he was a contributor to the failure of this Minnesota Vikings team, but ultimately I see it as a team failure over more than I see it as a Sam Darnold failure. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Minnesota Vikings? What do you think they should do with Sam Darnold? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.